Hey Todd, was it nice to see Gabe back on the ice today?
Of course it was. It was exciting to get him back out there. He was excited to be out himself, and he makes a difference when he's out there. So that's what we need from him.
When you look at Matt Luff, compared to the camp that he had last year, how big of strides have you seen in his game in camp this season?
Well, if you compare the two camps, it's not even close. This year, he was noticeable. He had an impact on every scrimmage. Not always about scoring goals, but he did a lot of hard work to create for others, grasp the systems. So I think it's night and day from where he was last year at this point till now. Now with him, he's got to maintain the momentum that he's created throughout training camp and put it into play during the regular season.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, just a reminder, guys, use the raise hand function. Lee Hamilton.
Todd, Lee Hamilton down in San Diego. Can you talk about the biggest challenge of teaching young players to excel at this level? Is it a bigger challenge dealing with a young forward to teach him how to learn how to play in traffic and score and the physicality, or is it tougher to teach a younger defenseman to make that next jump with angles and things like that?
I think we have to answer that question two different ways. We can generally answer it, and I think defensemen take a little bit longer to develop. Forwards, not quite as much, but their jobs are significantly different. But if you specifically narrow it down, usually the individual dictates the rate of or the due time of arrival. Some players get it quicker. Some players are physically further advanced than others, mentally stronger, regardless of what position. So, we have to look at each individual on its own merit and figure out where they're at, how much they can absorb, how much they need to be exposed to higher competition and when. And, it's hard sometimes because they don't always agree with us. They feel like they're further along, and we make mistakes, they make mistakes. But if we're developing players the right way, we're developing them for long-term careers. We're not just developing them for a cup of coffee in the NHL. And we'd like to continue that process and be patient with them.
And to follow up, what becomes of Byfield with the OHL still shut down and the Canadian government now saying that it might not be till March 1st that there's any cross-border?
Yeah, well, right now he's part of the NHL LA Kings organization. What do we have as far as options for him? There's certainly the National Hockey League. There's time in the American League. And he's only been able to skate with us, for 2 days. So we'll need to sit down later on this afternoon and evaluate his situation. We've got to make decisions for the team. We got to make decisions for Quentin, and we got to blend them all together so that it works for everyone. So he was impressive the first 2 days here at camp. He fit in very well. To think that he's only 18 and he's involved the way he is and the way he carries himself. Teammates are excited about having him here. So a lot of positives so far.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Jack Harris.
Todd, is there any info you're able to provide about why Gabe was able to rejoin today? And is there any update to the status of the other three?
Gabe cleared protocol. The other three are unfit to play. And for everybody that's on here, I'm going to tell you this again. I am not a doctor. I'm a coach. So when I walk in the door in the morning, I sit down and our training staff and our doctors come and they tell me who's available and who isn't. And I don't ask them why. I don't ask them how come. I just listen and we respond. So for all of you guys and ladies that continually ask me about protocols and clearing and whatnot, you're asking the wrong guy. Somehow you're going to have to get a hold of our doctors and our training staff, and they can tell you the processes for each and every situation. So Gabe cleared his protocol, and the other three or four or whatever it is are unfit to play right now.
And then Elias and Jarrett, aren't in that group, correct? They're not in the unfit to play group.
No, they're in the other group today.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next is Nick Nixon.
Yeah, hi, Todd. Regarding Blake Lizotte, it looks like you're going to be starting the season with him, likely with a couple of veteran players. I just want your take on what you've seen in his play to warrant maybe an elevation in ice time, and the areas where you're looking for him when the season does start to show you that he can stay there.
Well, the first part of the question is that he's earned the right to play with those players. The second part is that he complements those players with the way how tenacious he is on the forecheck and how he has the ability to retrieve pucks. He's very responsible defensively. So we feel good about him being there. I think if you asked his line mates, they're quite excited about having him as the centerman. And that's heading into the regular season. Now, where will it end up? I guess that depends on his performance and that line's performance, but I think he can be a factor in all three zones. I think he can play in any special team situation. Do we expect him to be scoring 35 goals? No, that's unrealistic. But we certainly expect him to be involved in the play on a positive note from night to night. He draws the most penalties of anybody on our team because of his tenacity, puts us in power play situations. He just plays the game the right way. And he's full of energy, and it rubs off on other individuals. So we'll take a lot of that all season.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay, we're going to go back to Jack Harris here.
A big picture one now. When you, as you look at this season, I mean, what is this year, do you think, going to tell you about sort of where you guys are in terms of the big picture plan and kind of how far you've progressed since you got here, and kind of the vision that you and Rob have laid out and where you guys want to go?
Yeah, and I'm big picture in year. I think that's important because where we what we begin with and what we end with, I don't know if it will be the same. We're looking, as I said, to reestablish throughout training camp and early in the season just who we are and what we want to do and how we want to do it. Get back to that, and then we've got to see growth. We've got to see growth individually. We've got to see growth from Dustin Brown and Ansi Kopitar, players that have been here forever, and we've got to see growth from Mikey Anderson and Gabe Velarde, who haven't had long NHL careers, but in everything in between. And then at the end of the season, whenever that does end, and hopefully it goes long, we can sit back and we can evaluate where we're at again, just like we did this past season, and adjust as we go. We know we're in it for the long haul. There isn't a quick fix. We're not going to rush the process. There's no way you can do that. And we're going to do what we have to do to make sure that the prospects are getting what they need as they develop. And, when they're ready, they're ready. And when they're ready, they'll arrive, and hopefully they can be productive. But right now we'll take our time and make good decisions for them and the organization.
Now, piggybacking off of that, I mean, a lot of the guys have been pretty vocal about wanting to compete for a playoff spot this year. Is that your goal too? And would it be disappointing if you guys aren't in a position to at least be playing those kind of meaningful games near the end of the year?
Well, I'm not even going to answer the second part because we got to play. And I expect us to compete really hard for a spot like that. Shame on any team who's not approaching the season that way, us included. I don't give, I don't care where we ended up last year. I know who we are right now. And our job is to go out and try and win every game and put ourselves in the best position possible. So for our group to have that attitude, I'm happy. I'm excited about it. We've got to try and live up to it, which is a big job. But the disappointment part and the what ifs, we haven't even played a minute of hockey yet. So let's wade our way into this and let's find out where we are. And, the old cliche, take it one game at a time.
Thanks again.
Okay, last question here from Zach Dooley.
Todd, when you look at Cale Clegg, do you see maybe a bit of an opportunity for him to contribute not only at even strength, but to maybe use some of his skill sets on the power play as well?
Absolutely. Especially with Walks being unavailable to us right now. His Kel Clegg's calling card, his whole career has been his legs, his vision, his ability to pass, all attributes that you often see on power plays. We would consider him an offensive defenseman before a defensive one, but his defensive game is getting better. And it's his time. It's his time to step up and say, hey, I belong here full time. And he's got to grab it and run with it. He's going to get the opportunity, so he may as well produce and be effective.